Tonight, we are just hours away from another possible government shutdown, and no one in Washington seems to know if a deal can or will get done. We've got the very latest. Plus, the Joe Percoco trial, star government witness Todd Howe under withering attack today on the witness stand. Did the defense team do enough today to get Percoco off the hook? And later, the Catskills needs an economic boost. This we all can agree. And today, a huge new casino opened its doors. We're going to take you there and ask if the market is still there for a casino stimulus. Evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. We'll get to that and other stories in the next 60 minutes in a moment. But we begin once again with another miserable day for the markets. After two big losses, including the largest one-day point drop in Dow history just this Monday, a lot of people thought things might begin to calm down on Wall Street. They would be wrong. The Dow dropping another 1,000 points today, or more than 4% of its value. The Nasdaq down just under 4% as well. The S&P off by a similar amount. Now, if the markets like certainty, they could certainly use some, and that's exactly what they are not getting from Washington as we report to you tonight. We are now less than 6 hours from another possible government shutdown, and as we speak, no one in Washington seems to know if lawmakers can make a deal in time to keep the doors open. The deadline to keep the government open is midnight. Despite the Senate's best efforts to offer a bill that includes perks for both Democrats and Republicans, the House, it could tank the bill, leading to another shutdown showdown.
It doesn't include everything that Democrats want, nor everything that Republicans want. But it's a good deal for the American people.
The deal includes billions for opioid treatment, disaster relief, and infrastructure, and a big boost to defense spending. But over in the House, conservative spending hawks say they can't vote on a package that raises the deficit. And Democrats, they're furious that the deal does not include a solution for dreamers, those undocumented immigrants who were brought to the country as children. Yesterday, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi gave an 8-hour speech to pressure Congress to act before the program that protects dreamers expires March 5th.
I'm not finished yet.
We have our beliefs, and we're willing to fight for them, and we're willing to fight for them on the floor of the House.
But today, Pelosi walked the line. She won't vote yay for the Senate bill, but she said she won't tell her members how to vote.
Now I'm just telling people why I'm voting the way I'm voting.
The bill increases defense and domestic spending by $300 billion over 2 years.
For months now, we have been working to get our military the resources it needs to keep the peace. This budget agreement delivers on that commitment.
Now you're looking at a live picture here. This is Senator Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky, who is leading what appears to be a filibuster.
The women of the village began stoning her and beating her with sticks as she lay on the ground bleeding, and everybody...
That would be called an awkward segue in live TV. I don't know where he's going with stoning, etc., but I can tell you the gist of his message. It was just seconds ago the equivalent of we're spending ourselves into oblivion. Let me put a little bit more context in some of the political dynamics and also the economic ones. Let's bring in our panel right now. I don't want him to talk about stoning.
The first stone. He's gonna.
Did he go out for stoning? This is news.
This is Rand Paul, so I can't say no. Richard Brodsky, the former Democratic New York State Assemblyman from Westchester, professor at NYU, and an opponent of public stoning. Conservative strategist Bill O'Reilly, who shares that vantage point, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent.
Depends on the kind
yes,
of stoning.
exactly. All right, as the stoning continues, listen, when we got up this morning, we thought that this was the ugly, that enough people weren't crazy about this, but enough in the middle were going to hold their nose and vote for it. And then, Andrew, a certain thing happened. The polar ends on the Democratic and the Republican side said it's a bridge too far. On the Democratic side, the Elizabeth Warrens and the rest said no. House already said, you know, we don't even know what will happen. And then you have the Freedom Caucus and the rest saying, wait a second. We were the fiscal discipline party. We were the ones screaming about deficits of $500 to $600 billion under Obama, and all of a sudden this would be $1.2 trillion, $1.3 trillion annually that these bills would run up.
And by the way, Rand Paul, who's arguing now about economic, fiscal sanity, voted for that bill, and the GOP certainly did. So they contributed to the deficit problem just in the tax bill. But yeah, in addition to the polar ends of each party and each chamber started pulling away, the White House started to give a little bit. President Trump earlier this week had been insisting that immigration had to be a part of this deal or he wouldn't support it, and they started to back away from that. And yet, Congress on its own doesn't look like it can get a deal done either. I don't really know how they're going to square this circle by midnight tonight. I think we're looking at another shutdown.
The Senate's going to have the votes to do this. I think the problem's in the House, and there, where the Republicans have a majority and only need a majority to pass it, the only remaining question is, are enough Democrats going to make up for the fact that the Republicans can't win a vote in their own House for their own bill?
And as we showed, Nancy Pelosi for 8 hours on 4-inch heels, as she said, yesterday, read stories of Dreamers and talked about and said that she personally, while she wouldn't whip votes against it, would not vote for it because of obviously the absence with the March deadline approaching of no Dreamer element in this.
Yeah,
you think so?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're seeing Rand Paul on the floor of the Senate trying to save what's left of the Republican Party, and I think you see Nancy Pelosi yesterday destroying what's left of the Democratic Party. I think she's out of, she was completely tone deaf to the country. I think Rand Paul is doing the right thing. We can't afford this budget.
Well,
This was a party that was fiscally
She wasn't saying I'm going to hold everything up unless I get immigration. She was saying I need a vote scheduled on immigration. That's all she wanted was a vote from Paul Ryan in the House.
What's fascinating is the debate among Republicans right now, which is, listen, they've looked over some, not all, like yourself, have been able to look past the things said and done by this president, okay, that really have to do with whether it be national security, decency, we can talk about it, and certainly trying to stifle a probe of which he's the subject of the investigation. But when it came to the math stuff, they've gone along to get along. But how do you reconcile, especially with primaries, I would think, to say, wait a minute, I'm the PAYGO party, and I'm doubling the deficits that Obama ran up in year one. Tax cuts that haven't paid for itself. There's no money. There's minimal. There's a little bit, but not nearly the money for infrastructure that Trump wants to do. That would be on top of all this.
Borrow.
That's right.
But how though? The math doesn't add up.
Yeah,
so who are the Republicans?
If you damage that brand, you're in really bad shape. It happened under George Bush II. Did the same thing. I know President Obama then doubled it again. But if the Republicans keep driving up the cost, their brand is shot.
In prosperity.
It's shot.
In prosperity.
It's worse than that. The other debt that both George Bush and Obama ran up were in times when you needed stimulus. Right. This is being done, excuse me, at a time when the last thing in the world you need is stimulus, as the markets are showing us. On the other hand, I disagree with Bill. I don't think this will have the slightest political consequence.
Oh, in a primary it will.
I don't.
The reason I threw Pelosi into this is that I think Pelosi is tone deaf to the average person in the country, where they're hearing the Democratic Party cares more about the Dreamers than about the average person. The people on here illegally.
I don't want to relitigate the fact about who are the Dreamers and not that we heard at the State of the Union. I am saying though, I haven't heard from any of the three of you there'll be a consequence if come midnight the doors close again.
Won't be.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think he's right. I don't think there was much of one last go round. I don't think there would be one. I mean, maybe
but
it was closer to.
If anyone needed any more confirmation just how broken Washington is, just think about that. After we go over the cliff once and say never again, the next possible chance we do, we could go over. Now, you guys believe we'll strike a deal come midnight. I don't know.
I don't think so.
We're going to find out. All right, coming up next, attorneys for Joe Percoco promised fireworks in their cross-examinations of the government's key witness, and today they delivered and then some. We're going to get the very latest in the corruption probe of the man once referred to as the third Cuomo son. We'll go live to New York straight ahead.